What up? It's Spencer, and we are back with another episode of Uncle Rob's Alien Story Time. And this week he's presenting to us his unified theory of breakfast foods and UFOs. So, have fun.
You may be familiar with the phrase, what came first, the chicken or the egg? The question was first posed by the Greek philosopher Plutarch in an essay from the 1st century CE. Today's UFO encounter asks a similar question. It took place on July 25th, 1979, in the Mediterranean municipality of Turris in Spain. Federico Ibanez, 54 years old at the time, was driving in the country to visit his vineyards. Approaching his property, he noticed the glint of something white shining in the mid-morning sun. It was coming from an object in the road near a plantation that grew beans. Thinking nothing of it, assuming it was the owner's car, he pressed on. He lost sight of the object due to a bend in the road, but when it came back into view from 50 meters, or about 165 feet away, something was clearly blocking the road. Still thinking it was his neighbor, Ibanez planned to pull up behind the car and have a quick conversation with his neighbor. It wasn't until the winemaker was about to kill the engine that he noticed it wasn't a car at all. Whatever it was, it resembled half an egg standing upright on a flat end, supported by two legs from his vantage point. The strange object was approximately 8 feet tall by 8 feet wide, or 2.5 meters by 2.5 meters. The object shone like a pearl in the morning sun when suddenly two small beings, about 3 feet tall or 90 centimeters, ran fast toward their excellent craft. They wore a strange white clothing which shone from head to knee. The garment widened at the base, and the garment worn on the legs was black. Their feet resembled black boxing gloves, but the most peculiar feature was the hoods they wore. This portion of the outfit resembled the hood of a winter coat, if it completely covered the face. Think Kenny from South Park, but jutting out from it was a black object believed to be a viewing lens of some kind. The beings ran behind the object, which instantly took off, kicking up a cloud of dust like a truck in a country music song. It swiftly sped off out of view from the man. Oddly, he just drove to his vineyards to check on them after that, but promptly came back to the spot of the landing. After inspecting it, he drove home and told his wife, daughter, and son-in-law. They all piled into the car and drove out to the landing site, but when they arrived, the owner of the adjoining vineyard was parked in the exact spot where the UFO had landed. How fucking inconvenient. They all feared the ridicule that would come with asking the man to move his car, but they all piled out and inspected the area around the landing site. The soil appeared to be disturbed. A sweeping effect had been created on the road, and behind a bean tree, there were two fissures, possibly created by the beings that had run from behind them and into the ship. 3 weeks later, a formal investigation was launched by the Valencia UFO Investigation Group. On the road, they found 4 circular marks that created a rectangle 176 by 130 centimeters, or approximately 6 by 4 feet. The group took soil samples, but they all turned out to be normal. Did Mr. Ibanez drive up on a pair of alien chickens returning to their craft? And did they design their egg-shaped home themselves? Really puzzling shit. I'll be posting the images that were created for this sighting in the Facebook group. Egg-shaped craft have been sighted for decades, and even yours truly spotted one in the Adirondack skies in 2015. These are not the only household food items spotted by witnesses. In the May 14th, 1966 Saturday edition of the Asbury Park Evening Press, they ran a story about a high school sophomore named Michael Siderick Jr. This little shit had debunked a UFO photo that appeared in the papers earlier that week. It appeared to show a beanpot lid being thrown in the air, and I've got to say, the two photos look strikingly similar. This, however, was not the first incident involving a beanpot. On the cover of the January-February 1967 edition of the APRO Bulletin, the lead headline read, "Beanpot Photo Taken in Indiana." On the afternoon of January 19th, 1967, 14-year-old Reed Thompson came home from school and plopped down on the family sofa to watch some TV. His back was to a pair of large ceiling-to-floor windows, but he turned around when he heard a noise similar to a diesel train starting up. Indeed, there were tracks that ran near the boy's house, and he immediately looked in the appropriate direction. At first, he saw what looked like a street light, but it was silver in color. That's when he realized that the light was moving, following the contour of the ground down the sloping street. It went out of view down a valley behind a small copse of trees. Reed later said that he felt like he was going to have a heart attack. He just couldn't believe it. After watching the object for several minutes, he grabbed the family camera and snapped a photo from the window. From 5 feet away, he took a picture with his camera, then he moved closer. In his excited state, he forgot to wind the camera and shot a double exposure photo that was probably badass. I've never seen it, but I'm gonna guess it was badass looking. Regaining his composure, he moved to the bedroom and wound the film and took a photo as the object floated past the window, passing out of sight near a large locust tree. The young boy then drew on his coat and rushed outside to observe the object for longer. It moved to the west and disappeared behind another group of trees, and when it did, the sound of the diesel engine ceased. The object photographed looked like an old-school fucking beanpot. Though it was dark in the photo, Reed claimed that the object was silver in color. You have to wonder if the phenomenon has the ability to disguise itself. Was it really fooling anyone under the guise of a goddamn beanpot? Or perhaps they were playing into our culinary desires. One theory that I've often joked about is that UFOs represent our craving for breakfast foods. Think about it. At Maury Island, the UFOs were shaped like donuts. Joe Simonton received pancakes from a group of Italian-looking aliens. Egg-shaped objects have been sighted for decades, and who wouldn't mistake a cigar-shaped UFO for breakfast sausage? Could UFOs be a hoax created by Denny's to sell more Grand Slams? We can't really rule that out, can we? Thank you for tuning in to this installment of Uncle Rob's Alien Storytime. Go make yourself some fucking Brenner.
Thank you, Rob. You're the best. We love you. Go listen to Rob's show, Our Strange Skies, wherever you get podcasts, and we will see you next time.